Welcome back to Bay Sunday. 2015 marks the 100th anniversary of the Panama Pacific International Exposition, the World's Fair. It was held in San Francisco's Marina District. 600 plus acres of some of the world's most famous inventors, builders, authors, musicians, and all the lot on the global stage right here in San Francisco. And you can take a trip back thanks to my next guest, an author of Panorama, Tales from San Francisco's 1950 Pan-Pacific International Exposition, a gorgeous coffee table book with one-of-a-kind pictures. Let's say hi to Lee Bruno. How are you?
Very good, thanks.
Well, this was kind of a celebration of the Panama Canal being completed, but it was also kind of San Francisco's rebirth and coming out party, too.
Right.
Tell us about that.
So originally in 1904, the vision for the fair was that it would celebrate the completion of the Panama Canal, which they knew had come into the Americans' hands in 1904, and that was part of my great-grandfather's vision. It was like, this will happen, and so San Francisco will have an opportunity to celebrate that. But what happened, and nobody knew, was the 1906 earthquake happened in 1906 and sort of reset the stage. And I think what happened then with the fair was kind of like the city coming together, and it was kind of awakening from the ashes, and it was a new city born at the same time as the fair, and that's a really powerful story.
And it was a process. It took another almost 10 years, and your great-grandfather, Rumen Hale, had a lot to do with that. What is your, you never met him, he passed away long before, what, 10 years or so before, after you were born, but tell us how you kind of rediscovered your great-grandfather, why you did the book.
So there was a letter that my great-grandfather had written to my grandfather, and I knew my grandfather well, and but you don't have these in-depth conversations when you're a young kid. Sure. And so it was basically a letter that was sent in 1942 of October. My grandfather was going to Washington to help in the war effort. He was going to work in the logistics department for Harold Ickes. And the letter pointed out 13 points, it's in the book, of just how to navigate Washington. And in that was so much clarity and vision, and sort of, it was just so lucid that I just said, there's so much here. And I didn't know a lot about the Pan-Pacific Exposition at that time. And so I started digging into the letters at the California Historical Society, and it's like peeling away an onion. All these stories start kind of, coalescing, and you find it's wondrous.
And the collection of the pictures.
Right.
The earthquake. And I believe we've got some photos here. Let's take a look at some of those, and just putting it all together.
So this is a map of the area of San Francisco that burned, and in the red area. And so I think that is really such a significant portion of the city. And so the city was on its knees. My great-grandfather's store, the Hale Brothers, they were selling their dishes and whatever they could pull out of the wreckage on the side of the street like other merchants. And in 1906, just in July, they had a San Francisco Merchants Association meeting at the St. Francis Hotel, and it was called the Reconstruction Dinner. But at that point, my great-grandfather resurrected the idea that we need to continue with this fair. This fair should be really on our, in our target for what we intended, because it's very parallel to rebuilding of the city.
And it's pretty amazing. I'm looking at the pictures. Marina District, Palace of Fine Arts was built because of this fair, and everything else is gone, which is extraordinary.
Yeah, it's a bit of I think it's sort of disappointing, but at the same time, it's this amazingly beautiful city within a city that just captured the imagination of 18 million visitors that came here from February to December of 1915, and there was programs every day. There was bands. There was just an enormous amount of activity, and for San Francisco, it was their great coming out party, and that was quite significant.
And a lot of people came. 250,000 people, 250,000 people visiting San Francisco, kind of put it back on the map, so to speak, and pushed it into another area. Talk about some of the people that actually attended and participated.
Yeah, so people that, there's a variety of people that came. I think, when we're talking about screen legends, Charlie Chaplin was here. He was filming The Tramp in Niles Canyon, which is Fremont now, at a studio there. He came over to see the fair. I think that he was a great musician and fan of Philip Sousa, and so he probably met Philip Sousa because he later plays in New York at the Hippodrome later that year as a guest conductor. And there was Buffalo Bill Cody, I mean, the great Buffalo Bill Cody with the Wild West show that in the 1880s had just captivated audiences across the country, and he performs, and it's 3 or 4 years before he dies, but he's on his horse, he's shooting trap balls out of the sky, and he spots in the sky for the first time an airplane. He's never seen one before.
Right.
And so, in fact, his cowboys and Indians that are in the parade that they do regularly through the Pan Pacific Exposition pause, look up and see this flyer,
right.
and they want to wait until the plane lands because they want to make sure it's safe.
Yeah, what the heck is that? Yeah, right.
So it's a great passing of the torch between the Old West and the New West.
In 5 seconds, what would your great-grandpa say about the book?
I think he'd probably be pretty happy with it.
He'd say, bravo, bravo. Yeah. Okay, Lee, thanks so much for coming in. All the best with the book. For more information about Panorama, log on to facebook.com/1950 Panorama Book. That's facebook.com/1915 Panorama Book. That's our show, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you next Sunday. Take care.